me see. Let me go on YouTube.
All right. Hey folks, what's up? It's your boy DJ Elf7, and tonight we got a very special episode with my man Christopher Leon Johnson. You know. Anyways, today we're covering a very personal topic for.
I don't think we're live. Wait, can you check?
Yeah, I'll check. Yeah.
I don't think we're live yet.
Okay. Thanks for
Checking.
checking. Yeah. Good to know. Yeah. Because I wasn't actually recording, so if that would be sad to have it all be
Yeah.
wasted.
Now we're live. Now we're live. I think.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Start over.
Well, I'll just anyway. Put it on, and then is there a chat there? Okay, there is a chat. Okay, so cool. Maybe people will show up. We'll see. I do have some friends that like to stay up real late, and there's an off chance that they jump in. Yeah, a small off chance. All right, cool. So I'll leave that in.
Now we're on. I'll check out because I think it's going.
All right, yeah. So let's get back to the subject at hand. Right now, we're talking about tonight a very personal topic for my man Christopher Leon Johnson. He loves to take on the stop the violence type of groups, not for profits, and other. And I've heard his. I also struggled with some of these fake organizations as well. Recently, I was complaining about PSL, and I'm not saying all PSL bad. I'm saying the leadership, right? Yeah, is working with the other elites to form their own little corrupt club. And I think there's a lot of well-meaning people at PSL, and I wish that y'all talk to me and stop listening to your leaders who are telling you whatever. Yeah. Anyways, we're back to the issue at hand. So, how can we? Chris has actually one of the most well-heeled, journalists out there. He goes to so many events, long time. You go to sometimes 2-3 events a day, right?
Yeah.
Easily, right? Every single day, rain, shine, right? This guy's out there, snow, right? Yeah. So, what is how can people recognize a fake organization? What do you think?
Well, all right. So thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate you having me on this week. This Thursday morning, to be exact. It's past 12 o'clock in the morning. So we're here right now. We're going to talk about some nonprofit shenanigans. We're going to talk about how we're going to recognize these corrupt nonprofit shenanigans. So I like to start off in the show. We had this in the pre-show about how they basically are real political. These nonprofits are really political. A number of these organizations, they cannot survive without being political, because from being political, they get government money. In New York City, they call it discretionary funding. Now, we're going to talk about this right now. People like to be real gaslighting about the stuff because they don't want people to know, especially these executive directors, don't want people to know that they're political. What happens with nonprofits in politics is that if you want government money, if you want discretionary money, you want capital funding, you want any type of funding from the government, you have to be political. Now, by being political means that you have to help in electioneering. Now, when it comes to electioneering, that means is trying to get people elected and reelected to office. That could come from having them speak at your press conferences, at the nonprofit press conferences, speaking at the nonprofit rallies, speaking at the nonprofit galas and dinners and resource fairs and everything like that. Now, the thing about nonprofits and electioneering, the law is that nonprofits that's under a 501c3 charter, they cannot electioneer for candidates. That means they cannot endorse candidates in the organization. Nobody in the organization cannot represent the organization and say we endorse X candidate or Y candidate. That means that if, let's say, I work for Make the Road New York, I don't work for them, they real corrupt. I'm just saying as an example, Make the Road New York. I cannot say that I am a member of Make the Road New York, and behalf of the nonprofit, myself and the organization endorse X candidate for city council, or X candidate for state assembly, or X candidate for mayor, or X candidate for governor, X candidate for controller. Going on from that. If they do that, they could lose a nonprofit charter. and now they're gonna be paying taxes.
No, actually, let's
So
talk
the
about one of the very interesting things is that you're actually, and I actually look up to you so much for this. You're actually on your community board, and a lot of
I
the
am
fun
part of the Railroad
and
actually.
a lot of the funding that goes to these not-for-profits has to usually goes through a grant proposal that goes through the community board, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
So you'll be able
It
to
does.
actually, you should, yeah, it does. So you might be able to actually impact on some, of these organizations yourself very soon.
I have to jump into the meetings. Yep, that's the truth. I had to jump into the meetings and make sure it's on the calendar. I had to jump into the meetings. That's a fact.
That's a real activist. You making it happen. Yeah. Hey, much respect, man. I love that. Yeah. That's
Thank
crazy.
you.
Hey, that's cool, man. Yeah, this man's on a mission.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Yeah. Cool, man.
So yeah, thank you. So going forward, like I said before, again, if they lose their nonprofit charter, now the way they get around this stuff, it just like let's bring an example about like Make the Road New York and Vocal New York. The way to get around this is that they'll form a 501c4 charter organization that we call Victory Fund or Action or Victory or Action or
Just some other names.
PAC.
Right, yeah.
Get around that to make sure they be political. So what will happen is Make the Road New York has a thing called Make the Road Action. And what they will do is they'll endorse candidates under the Action banner rather than the regular Make the Road New York banner. Just
Yeah.
like Vocal New York. They will
Yep.
endorse candidates under the Make Vocal New York Action banner other than the regular Make the Road New York banner. The NYIC is a nonprofit that deal with immigration. They're the main ones that's pushing for non-citizen voting. And they're the main ones that pushing the migrant crisis. They have an action that's called the NYIC Action, the political arm of the NYIC. The NYIC will endorse candidates under the NYIC Action banner over the nonprofit banner because the way to get around the stuff.
But by
But people
watching
got
But by watching Christopher Leon Johnson's channel, you can see how the politicians use the not-for-profits. For example, right, we went to this one event where the politicians were at this event trying to fight against violence against women. There was a bunch of Asians there, and they trotted out all the kids there in front of them, right? Yeah, and it's like a campaign event, but it's not technically a real campaign event. But they're still using the community-based organization to, electioneer.
Yeah, so that's one of the examples. We was here. I think it was in October. I think it was in October, November. It was in October, November. It was one of these months that we was out there together, and it was all the nonprofits, mainly all the nonprofits that the government, that all the elected officials fund. And they was pushing for sexual assault awareness. Okay, fine, but all that was electioneering for candidates and elected officials.
So, quick question for you, Chris, right? Yeah? So the thing is that I agree with you that this happens, right? But the thing is that if we take a look at it, right, the fact of the matter is that these people's contracts, right, if someone else comes into office, it's possible that that grant or that contract will go to someone else. So their jobs are in some ways dependent, or their funding is reliant on the relationship with these people.
Yep.
How can they really realistically not get involved, right? Even if the paper says, is it realistic to ever expect people to really follow that kind of rule? What do you think?
No, not at all, because they rely when you start finding out that when you start, it has a lot of nonprofits, a lot of NGOs.
Yeah,
Even
there's too much at stake. They're going to do it.
Yeah, they're gonna do it. There's ones that get government money that doesn't work. There's ones that get government funding that does the work. They do the right thing for people. I know some of them. They get government funding. They do the work. That's why I don't really get at them. But I'm like, they should get more money. You know what I mean? But that's a different thing. But when you start getting government money and you start opening yourself to the government, it opens you up to other avenues. You can get foundation money. You can get private donor money. You can get in-kind
Developer money. Oh no.
in-kind donations, because what happens is with these organizations, they become a funnel for people seeking business with the city, and people seeking business with people seeking business with people seeking business with the state of New York, with the state, whatever, or say, especially let's say you like a nonprofit and you deal with immigration. Now, but at the same time you're the executive director and you're good at lobbying. You're good at lobbying elected officials to get certain things done because they'll listen to you. Now it opens up to a lot of like people that want business with the city to start doing business with you because you get money from the government. Because they start seeing that you get money from the government, uh, they gonna think that okay, if they work with this nonprofit, it might open them up, it might help them out and get that contract or get that rezoning. So what happens with them is they start doing those people that want the rezonings and want the contracts, they start donating to those nonprofits. And in return, that the executive directors or probably somebody that does government policy start lobbying for them to get that contract or get that contract or get that rezoning. So it opens a lot of corruption. So it opens a lot of corruption, and they do it through the nonprofits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what happens when you get real political. It's open to a cable of a can of worms.
You know, I've actually done a lot of charity drives. And to tell you the truth, it's very hard to get any real donations, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
right? Yeah? The fact of the matter is that a lot of the donations are cooked. And
Yep.
they're used for money laundering. They're used
Yep.
for actually the publicly funded elections. Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. And the people use that to fund future elections. It's
Yeah, there's
it
a way
needs
to do
be
that.
examined. It needs to be examined. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a way they do that. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about quickly with that. Now, with public funded elections, that means that it's a scam. It's not but a sham that to give. It's just like an illusion of democracy, because democracy really consists of everybody should get involved, even look guys like me and you. Now, what happens in public funded elections is in a lot of towns, it's either two things: it's matching funds or what is it? It's matching funds or it's democracy vouchers. That's like a Seattle. It's democracy vouchers is where like if you pay $20, you get like $50 of democracy vouchers, so you could donate to the campaigns.
Right.
Matching funds is basically like if you donate 10, your dollar can get. Let's say you donate $10, your dollar can get matched up to $90.
Right.
For a candidate.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference from democracy vouchers and public and matching funds. It's still public money. The matching funds or the democracy vouchers still come out of taxpayer money, but there's a certain limit of how much money the government can dole out to each candidate and to each election. Now, with public funds, this is how the nonprofits really get involved. The public funds are sent by the government. It's all approved by the city council. Basically, the city council appoints the people on the campaign finance board. So of course that the city council has a big what is it, fiduciary thing with the campaign finance because they don't want their opponents to get the money. So that's how it can be corrupted. Now, how the nonprofits get involved is because they have a big stake and donate to these campaigns, and their money get matched. Majority of the time, that the PACs don't donate to the candidates. It'll be the executive director that donates to the candidates while that money gets matched because they're not a PAC. Unless they are lobbyists in the city, in New York City, the state of New York City, their money can't be matched. If you're a lobbyist, your money can't be matched. So that's how they get around this stuff.
You know,
Now,
one person that was a big fan of was Letitia James, right? Yeah, I thought she was kind of cool, but then I saw some troubling things with this group called Riseborough. The thing is that before it was like Senior Bushwick Center, and it went down for corruption. Then they reformed her into Riseborough, and I saw some troubling things.
yeah.
And then I found that Letitia James was speaking at their gala dinner. So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she's, right, she could have just been asked and she doesn't know anything. But the fact of the matter is that, it's hard to find, to believe that you're going to get any justice if you're really taking on Riseborough when the Attorney General herself is actually speaking at their gala. You're like, well, can I take on
Yeah, because
Riseborough on
they're
anything?
big. They help people get elected. They help a lot of people get elected. That's based in Bushwick.
Yeah.
It helps a lot of people get elected. So that's the thing about Riseborough. Now go back to public funds and how this happens in a lot of dirty games. Now let's say you're an elected official and you're in the state senate and you're trying to run for city council. You're running for city council because you just want the matching funds. You know you're not going to
Yeah.
win. You just want the matching funds. Now, what happens with that? Let's say you're a state assembly member and you run for city council. You try to put as many people in that race to make sure that you don't win. You do that on purpose. But at the same time, you tell your constituents and the people that want to support you that, hey, give me some money and I'm gonna make the money and I'm gonna run. You will do whatever you got to do to make sure that you don't spend as much money as possible as a state assembly member running for city council. This happened last year in 2020, 2021. I mean, 2 years ago, we had a lot of state assembly members run for board president and state senators run for board president and state senate and controller. Now, what happens is these elected officials will raise the money from their donors, and usually that's to help the curry favors. That's how it works with campaign finance, and it's a dirty game. Like, you donate to these elected officials, now then they're your best friend, right? Donate 10, you get a photo op. Donate 100, you might get an email back. Donate $250, you'll get their phone number. Donate 500, you get a little more. Donate the max amount of money, then they'll give you their personal number. Then you're their best friend. It's like a levels.
That's all. It's all about money.
Yeah, it's all about money.
But what happens? But why is it? What if you do work that's like equivalent? They don't seem to like that.
They don't really like that. It's about
your
money.
Work is disposable. Yeah, like if you do,
That's about electoral. That's about electoral politics. Sometimes when it comes to like electoral for these elected, let's say go do something for your return. Don't knock on doors for them. Don't canvass for them. Don't petition for them, because they'll mess you over. They'll screw you over. Now, going back to that, they'll take, like I said, they'll raise the money, get the matching funds. Usually in New York City city council elections, the maximum they can give out per election for every candidate is like $170,000. So what they'll do to make sure they save that money by hiring a cheaper staff to be their campaign man, they'll hire their staff to do the campaign, have to work for free, and they'll find a way to hoard the money. And then they'll transfer that money to their state
campaign. Yeah.
So it's where they do that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
It's it's people know about what's going on. They need to fix it, right? Yeah, this is obviously not the way it was meant to be designed. It's being weaponized against the people that it was meant to serve. Like many programs, it's gone awry. So people think that they get all to do about policy. Okay, implementation is key. All right, it's not just policy. That's it, right? So it's just my position on it. So these corrupt organizations here. Let's say that someone's like a lot of times you call out these stop the violence, cure the violence organizations, right? Yeah. What are some things that people could do, right, to see right through the facade?
Always. I like to do this on media. Just don't try to put your 2 cents while they're talking. Do not try to disrupt. I like to tell people, just observe what they do. Observe their behavior. Observe and hear what they say. Always look out for the keywords of what they should be saying. If they didn't say it, you got to have your red flags. Now, with cure violence, they don't really talk about bail reform. They don't really talk about gun control. They don't really talk about increasing the police presence in these districts to make sure this stuff don't happen. Now, that's what I look for. And if they don't say that, I'm going to grow real suspicious of what they do and what they say.
But what are some examples of things that you said that were like things that you've heard that were sus? Like some other solutions?
They'll just say, we need more resources. We need more resources, and we need more resources. Now, that's fine, but they're just saying that we need more money.
Right.
We need more money. Now, I think that's kind of stupid. I mean, we just need more money. Okay, the way we could stop gun violence is by having more money. We need more money.
Yeah, the money's worth something, but it's not worth everything, right?
It's funnel money to our nonprofits, and it will solve the issue. I don't think that's a wise thing to do.
All right, so good to know. Now, in the cure violence orgs, you actually show the a good chain where logical reason why the cure violence orgs want the funding goes up when violence happens, so they're actually incentivized to do something that's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Are there any so I think cure violence is maybe like an easier it's still complex, but it's an easier one to see. Are there any particular corruption or corrupt not-for-profits that you think are more difficult to recognize? But
what you mean, like?
Okay, so maybe charities, right? A lot of charities can be misused to instead of really actually take care of poor people, They can actually, for example, they can actually pay the money to pay staff, right? Or a lot of money can go missing and they don't get investigated a lot. And then the things that they get donated, they give that to their people, right? But then they tally that off as monetary goods. So the value of it, right? They're writing that off while they're keeping the cash.
Yeah.
Um, so, like that might be just. So when people see if they're honestly, I think people should you could watch the doors or watch the activity around election time and see what they're doing. Um, these people are not there. It's not hard to see what they're doing, and honestly, they have to do it. I feel like I can't really I worked at some of these organizations, right? Yeah, and I saw some things, but I can't really blame them because I'm not really happy about it though. You know what I mean? I don't think it's good for the overall system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything. So what do you think is the solution? Because there's really doesn't look. It's just like the name, right? Yeah, they have the 501c4 and the 501c3, and then they're playing games, right? 527s, right? Yeah, and they're like, oh, if it wasn't this organization, it's my victory fund, blah blah blah, just tossing it back and forth like it's just an imaginary football. What do you Is there any particular solution to it?
What you mean, like
To fixing these, any recommendation you would have to fix these corrupt not-for-profits?
how to fix it?
Yeah,
How to fix these corrupt nonprofits?
yeah,
Basically, what you can do is it can be controversial, but sometimes you got to confront them face to face. I'm not trying to say be angry is be raged, but you gotta be you have to be real careful. Be careful how you confront them. You know what I mean? Because they can be real. Some of these people are real dangerous and diabolical, and some of these organizations run a house of cards. But I think we should be confronting them a little more. And at the same time, we got to form our own things. We got to form our own organizations. We got to form our own nonprofits. Because if you don't, then you're gonna be miserable as hell, miserable doing this stuff. You know, best thing to do is start your own thing, and that's how you get around that.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. And another way to recognize. Okay, another thing that I would say that corrupt nonprofits, I would say the way to recognize them is they'll have a lot of youthful staff, and I'm not prejudiced against youth. I think they should be given opportunities, but they'll have high-level positions like management or things like that, and not that they're not capable, but the thing is that sometimes older people might say no to certain things, or more experienced people might recognize certain problematic behaviors, or maybe. So if you see, and sometimes young people can be coerced into really, saying yes to certain things. Also, if all of these staff is, good looking and there's nobody with disabilities or anything like that, it's just something that it doesn't have to mean that things are off, but it's something to be noted. What are the values here? What are the and to tell you the truth, any organization can become corrupt and then can redeem itself, right? So it's really hard to really track this type of, behavior because it can go back and forth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also the leadership, once again, can be, changed or, operating things and, one group of management is in there one day and another group isn't there the other day, and
Yeah.
you have some variance. So yeah, it's like a forever war we have to do to make sure that our leaders and to make sure our organizations remain accountable and to make sure that they are living up to their
Mhm.
ideals and expectations, right? So we can see that there's a lot of, I think, what I took really from tonight's exploration was the main thing that you really look for is the incentives, right? As in
Yeah.
terms of how these not-for-profits are tied to electioneering, and
Yeah.
yeah, and a really true control of our government itself. And this is affecting everything from education with the
Hmm.
teachers, right? I think they just got a raise. Um, all right, okay. Have they sorted out their problems yet? I don't know. So I'm not
I don't think.
okay.
Um,
So
Now, going forward, thank you for bringing that up. Now, going forward, you have to be real careful and tell people right now, you have to be real careful of the organizations that do their best to co-opt things, that try to co-opt certain causes,
right.
and certain bad faith actors that try to co-opt certain causes, because it will make you look like it could mess what you got going on. Especially that person works with elected officials, and the person that or that person works with the government, or get money, or that organizations get money from the government, because majority it depends on the topic. There's a reason they might be there for, because they might want to be able to shut it down.
Yeah, and you know what? They're just like with scams. One of the probably famous cherries that you heard of is like Wish Kids Network or something. There's like a good one and a bad one. I forgot the exact name. There are some not for profits that like to use kids or like to use other
Yeah.
attractive individuals. They also like to use seniors. I'm telling you right now, senior citizens and immigrants. That's something you talked about earlier, right? Populations that are dependent, populations that could be influenced maybe a little heavier, that you could pull the flim flam on. We know the GameStop, right, signs up a lot of people who speak Spanish for the memberships that they never tried to sign up for. There's a lot of games being played
Oh
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
They love using minor because of the age and the laws that can do to use minors, especially after a certain time. They can't work after a certain time, but they love using kids because they don't pay them. Majority of the time they don't pay them. So
Also, the kids are. I'll tell you another thing. And even though I do have my beef with Sunrise, which I recently, that was one of the reasons why I went to make some noise at the night chat thing. I was a little bit unhappy about that. Still unhappy about that. But, um, anyways, wait, what? Why did I talk about Sunrise again? Oh yeah, okay. So the thing is that I did work on the Jamal Bowman campaign, and the thing is that I didn't talk that much about it because, and I didn't work that hard on it because honestly, I knew he was going to win way before, because I'd worked so many campaigns before. But there was so when I showed up to start making calls, right? Because there was like these meetings, they do the Zoom calls where everybody's calling people and stuff.
yeah,
And then I saw all these kids there, and I was like, I just thought like because he was a principal or something, he just happened to know some kids groups and stuff. Later on, I found out it was Sunrise, right? Yeah, yo, these
hmm
kids, the adults, they make excuses. They start doing other stuff. The kids real focused, and the adults have a hard time hanging up on the kids. You know what I mean? And when the kids knock on the door, leave literature, right? Yeah, but it's easy. It's harder to slam the door on a little kid, and be like, oh, check this out, right? Yeah, versus an adult, you're like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So they are very effective in that way. They have that trust factor.
yeah. Majority of the time, like with nonprofits, they sometimes they like recruit teachers, and they'll get the kids involved. I'll just say, oh, just get involved civically, but the way you get involved is by working on this campaign. It's just like, dude, like that's how they do sometimes. You gotta be careful of the teachers that's on the campaign because they got a lot of kids.
Yeah, and I'm
They
just
can
gonna
get,
tell my audience right now, like, go ahead, like, yo, Linda Lee. I'm just like saying, like, one of the days we have time for my stuff, but go to her feed right now, and you're gonna see a lot of pictures of her in the classroom celebrating stuff with the kids.
yeah,
Exactly. I mean, this is what
schools,
happened.
schools. I know we talking about nonprofit schools are a good way electioneering because schools depend on a lot of government money. They depend on discretionary funding, and they depend on the DOE funding, and they depend on the capital funding. So schools can be real political too. Real political. They're not a nonprofit, but they would be real political. Schools can be real political.
If people don't, okay, here's another thing, right? Yeah, if the people don't mobilize, right, which they can't. Let's take a look, right? So let's take a look at public housing, okay? You know that they're being bought out and being replaced, right? The Chelsea thing, whatever. But the thing is
Uh-huh.
that the industry, right? If they buy the apartment, and each apartment goes up by about $1 million, and so each development they're probably gonna make $200 million, right? If each
Yeah.
tenant there, right, yeah, makes $1 million, right, yeah, are they paying to any fund, like to have people lobby for them or to help, like get? No, they're not, right, yeah. But the industry's
Hmm.
already getting money and is seeking to, like, they're getting like $1 billion a year. They see a contract and they say, what, let's invest, a couple $1 million into marketing towards, getting the results that we want. And yeah, they're incentivized to do that, of course. So how can honest not-for-profits compete with, right, yet industry-funded or developments, right? That we see that's a big problem in real estate. Is there any way for real activists to compete against the money celebrities that back the fakes?
There's a way. You just have to have the faith. I tell people this. I'm not saying there's no way. No, no, that's bullshit. I'll tell you right now, there's a way. You have to have the faith, and you have to navigate it a certain way. I just tell people this, that has new nonprofits. Try to be friends with people that's already established in the nonprofits. If you could be a friend with the executive director, be a friend. Try not to be the reactionary. Try not to be the rebel. Because sometimes you never know who could help you out. You never know who could help you out because they might want to get rid of one other nonprofit. They can make some money. And you just pray that you know you be with them. So I tell people this: try not to burn bridges with everybody because you might not see something a certain way, because you never know you might need them. It can be frustrating sometimes, but you got to keep the faith. I believe in God. I tell people keep the faith because
Okay,
you never know how it's gonna come down. Always keep the faith and hang in there. I will
interesting.
never tell you there's no hope. There is hope. You
That's
know,
cool, man. Appreciate that. All right, cool, man. Well, I'm
just please
skeptical
keep the.
myself, but I'm still doing it for some reason, so I don't know why. But I guess I have the faith, I guess, or something. I don't know. Whatever.
Mhm.
What else is there to do? Yeah, anything else doesn't make sense to me, so whatever. Oh, well. All right, anything else? Really? I think that's really. Um, oh,
Basically,
go ahead.
yeah. What were you gonna say before? What were you gonna say?
Okay, so there's some actually interest. Okay, so vocal, right? How do you recognize that they're actually problematic?
Oh,
They're
because
a favorite target for you. Yeah.
vocals all over everything. Vocals all over everything, and that's the problem. Is that they're at mostly every rally.
They're a big
Yeah,
organization. Yeah, I was actually impressed because I was in Albany, and they were working on two issues at the same time. They had two separate teams. I said,
yeah,
"Whoa, that's crazy!" I said, "You're not here just for one thing. You had multiple teams going in multiple." I was like, so "What?"
yeah. They for
Yeah.
everything. The thing is with them is thing with them is they for everything.
I mean, I have like my multiple issues too. That like when I was down there, I was actually going back and forth between two issues myself. So I was there for the COVID mandates and for the housing. So I kind of like got both at the same time. So I
Hmm.
myself, right, am also doing multiple things. So right, you do multiple things. So that I like to me that's kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I mean, is that a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, it's good. It's good they're doing a lot of stuff, but how does that kind of like tell you that they're it's an electioneering thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yep.
gotta really do that electioneering, or they're not gonna just give it to you. They did all that work. They don't want to just give it to you, and I get that. So, oh, we
They
gotta
will do
empower
their return.
ourselves.
Yeah, it's just with them is they real diabolical how they do things. They just like make the rule in New York. They do the same thing. Like they do the same thing where they go at every rally that even had nothing to do with them, and they're there. You know,
Yeah,
that's how they. Oh, yeah, they make sure they're in the front. They make sure they're in the front with their shirts and their hats.
yeah. That guy, what's his name? The big guy. Whenever I saw him at the rally, he was trying to be cool with me. But later on, I did hear him say some things that were kind of you know, pro-black at the expense of Asians. So I I get it, but it's a little bit unfortunate. So ugh. But he's just one guy, right? Yeah, I can't say they're all like that. So
Yeah,
right, and we can't all think exactly the same. So hopefully it doesn't become a real problem. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So we know how normalized in our society, by the way, because the thing is that remember that no council member even thought to say that. Hey, maybe went a little farther, buddy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Come on now, right? Yeah, they couldn't even say that. So
yeah,
yeah, so some people get help, some people get justice, some people don't. That's just me. I should stop whining about my own shit. Anyways, but the fake
yeah.
not for profits. Let's take a look at some of the big. Sorry, just some of the big players in the game, Boys and Girls Club, right? What do you think about those types of United Way, right? What do you think about those bigger ones?
Yeah, they like the worst. I try not to pay no mind because they don't really about the advocate for things. They just take the money and do political stuff and that's it. But they don't take the money. You know.
Okay, interesting. All right, cool, man. All right, so Um, yeah, a lot of the hospitals are actually, I think the not-for-profit ones went out of business. So I think now
Yeah,
the big takeover
because
has
those
mostly
they
killed
got
them.
busted doing a lot of dirty. They got busted doing a lot of dirty business. A lot of those hospitals, like those hospital-based nonprofits and like medical-based nonprofits, they could be the most corrupt because they usually embezzle a lot of money, and sometimes elected officials be behind that too. They be a part of it because sometimes the elected official, before they get into city council or state assembly, they'll form that nonprofit. That's an easy way to get electioneering because you do a lot of supposed to do a lot of service in the community, but it looks like a real tangible thing for your community because you're doing medical work, cover somebody's leg or whatever. You know what I mean?
Once it has a certain label, then people give it a pass, and that's a mistake. They need to really investigate, and they need to learn to be more involved. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I need to get on with the community board myself, man. Yeah, I actually, you just go to the community board website or the city website and then just apply.
yeah.
I will. I missed today's meeting, man. I had a meeting. I feel well. I was hitting.
Mm-hmm.
It was a slow day though. Yeah. I also went to the night shift things, and that was good. Anyway, so yeah. So hey, man. Thanks so much for your input, and I hope this is valuable. I'm gonna put this in my activist training series for people who are just learning about to help you guys learn about things they don't teach you in school. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
God bless. Thank you.
All right, man. Take it, bro.